Okay, this is Susan Clayton. Oh, pick it up again.
Oh, sorry.
Susan Clayton-Goldner's book, A Bend in the Willow, just came out. So you must be pretty happy. This is Susan Clayton-Goldner.
Hi.
We're up in Portland, Oregon, and the book just came out. When did it come out?
The book launched on the 18th, so a week ago yesterday.
Oh, and tell us about it. It's doing quite well, right?
So far, it's doing pretty well. It was published by a small press out of Ireland, and they do a very fine job with the formatting and a good editor, good proofreader, beautiful cover, but they don't do a lot of marketing, so that's pretty much fallen on me.
So what's the name of the publisher?
The publisher is Tirgear, Tirgearr, and they're out of Dublin.
How did you find them?
I started querying small presses, and a friend of mine who lives in Vermont had published with them, so she suggested that I try them. And sure enough, the first go-around, they took the book. I signed a contract in July, and it came out in January.
Now they've taken a couple more, too.
Yes, now I've signed contracts for 2 more.
Oh, that's so great.
Yes, and another one in the works with one of the same characters. So there'll be a 3-book series coming out starting in May. The first one will come out in May. It's called Redemption Lake.
Tell us about the book.
Bend in the Willow?
Yeah.
The Bend in the Willow is a story about a woman who, when she's 17 years old, she meets violence with violence, and then she knows she has to disappear forever. She totally reinvents herself, gets herself educated, marries a medical school dean, and has a 5-year-old son. When that son is diagnosed with a chemotherapy-resistant leukemia, she must return to the place where she's wanted for murder in order to save the life of her son. Because relatives make the best donors, neither she nor her husband are a donor, and she's willing to do anything, risk anything, even her life, to save her boy.
Sounds great. In fact, I've read it. It is great. And then what happens to her? Well, we don't want to tell the whole story.
I don't want to do too many spoilers.
We don't want
but it has a optimistic ending. Everything isn't tied up in a neat bow, but there's certainly hope for all the characters at the end.
And I know that in the middle of the story, her brother hates her guts, and yeah, it's really a passionate. It's got tons of emotion. It's a very passionate book. I think readers will really like it. I like it. You're actually quite a well-known poet, right? Tell us about your poetry writing.
Well, I've been writing poetry since I was a child, but only in the last decade or so have I started publishing a fair amount of poetry. Had a collection of poetry come out in 2014 called A Question of Mortality. It was published by a small press in Ashland. I've won a fair amount of awards for poetry. I love poetry, but I started to believe that I wanted to have a bigger canvas. In many ways, I think poetry has helped me as a fiction writer because metaphor and simile come really naturally for me. Mm-hmm. But in some other ways, it's hurt me because in the beginning, before Jim Frey got his hands on me, I sort of over-described things and got so in love with the language that I was forgetting the story. So he's really taught me how to merge the two.
How many books do you have unpublished? Because people, it used to be people would say you had to write 1 million words before you publish, but for me it was like 5 million.
Yeah, I think it was about that for me too, Jim. I probably have 10 novels in my drawers at home. And I used to think that was terrible and I felt awful about it, but now that I have this book coming out and they're eager to publish more of my books, I'm delighted that I have at least 2 more books that are in good shape, that have been through a lot of critique and been through some professional editing. And so I would say don't worry about it. Just keep writing. Write the best damn book you can possibly write.
And keep trying to sell it.
And keep trying to sell it. I never gave up. I had 100 rejections from agents before one took me. She didn't sell the book. Another one took me. She didn't sell the book. And I just gave up on agents and decided that I was going to do it myself. And lo and behold, it happened. It worked.
Wow. That is a great story. Well, see, I'm hoping that these interviews that I'm doing will encourage people to keep trying and keep writing, and hoping that these interviews I'm doing will show the way for other people.
Yeah, I think so too.
So people that don't know your writing, let me tell you, her prose is absolutely exquisite. She is a poet, and you'll know it as soon as you start reading it. It's beautifully written, and it's extremely gripping. She didn't give away too much of it, but at the beginning, her daddy's not a nice man.
That's for sure.
Yeah.
One of the things that I believe today with self-publishing having a lot more credibility than it had in the past, and so many small presses opening up, I think it's a great time to be a writer because we have so many more options than we had in the past.
Yeah. And I think a lot of times tell our viewers about what you were telling me earlier about promoting it and what you found out and
Yeah, I was actually terrified of that part. I'd say I'm a writer, I don't know how to promote, but I've learned how to promote, and pretty quickly. One of the things I discovered was a website called authormarketing.com, and what it'll do for you is you feed in the names of authors that you admire or that you think write like you do, and it will go through every review that's ever been written for that author, pull out the email addresses of those who left them, and then generate a list for you. And so that's how I got reviewers. When A Bend in the Willow launched last week, I had already had 40 reviews on Goodreads, and the day it launched I got 20 more on Amazon, and I think that's been enormously helpful. For a little while, and the other thing is that Amazon chose it as one of their top 100 books, hot new releases they call it, in the family drama, family saga genre. So that's been giving me a little boost in terms of sales too. I learned a lot about promotional sites, and I actually wrote a blog this week. If anybody wants to check it out, it's susanclaytongoldner.com, about the steps I went through to do promotion for this book. I was extremely intimidated, but I just took it one day at a time, one step at a time, and so far so good. I mean, I still have a long way to go, but I'm feeling good about what's been accomplished this week.
So your book's been out a week and you
1
got
week.
60 reviews?
Yes.
I think that's pretty
And the vast
fantastic.
majority of them are 5-star. Of course, I had one star and a couple 2s. I think I've had 4 critical reviews and 56 positive ones.
A 1-star review?
Yeah, really.
Oh, that must hurt.
It did. It did. It really, really stung. But the funny thing was, I cried at the good reviews, and I didn't cry at the bad ones. So it was really kind of a crazy time, but an exciting time as well.
So now you've got to figure out how to get your publisher behind the book.
Putting out a trade paperback?
Yeah,
Yes, I
putting out a trade
definitely have to do that. I had several people say they wanted to use this book for their book club, but most book clubs want a copy of the book in their hands rather than an e-copy. So
Yeah.
that's my hope, is that we'll come out with a trade paperback soon.
Wow, it's going great so far.
Yeah, going great so far.
So what are you working on now?
I'm working on a brand new novel, which is why I am here with you, because I wanted some help with plotting. As it turns out, my aunt just died, and so I'm going to have to take off after this interview. But I'm sure you'll work with me as the time goes by on my plotting and stuff for this book. It's a 3rd book in a detective series that I've done with the same detective, and that's what the publisher wants. The next 2 books will have this detective, and so she wants a 3rd book that uses the same detective. So that's what I'm working on now. I've written the opening scene, and I have a...
This is the detective that was with the little girl is kidnapped.
That's correct.
Story.
That's correct.
That's a great story.
And also in
That's the
Redemption
one's
Lake.
coming out, right?
Redemption Lake first, and then that one.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
a great story.
Both the same detective. Yes.
Yeah, that's a great story.
Well, you've worked with me on all these stories. I mean, the truth is, I couldn't have done it without you.
Oh, cut it out.
I know I'm not blowing smoke up.
You'd find your way.
No, I don't know.
There's a lot of critics around.
Well, I know, but here's the thing. I had a degree in creative writing. I completed an MFA program, and I really didn't know how to tell a story until I came to your first workshop. And that's the truth. I mean, there's no denying it. It's the truth.
Well, I didn't know until I went to Lester Gorn's workshop there was such a thing as storytelling.
Yeah. It's the hardest thing that I've ever tried to learn. You know, I'm kind of a good quilter, I'm a good stained glass window maker, and all of those things I learn quickly, but writing takes a long time. It really, really does, until it clicks, and then you start to get it.
Yeah, I think it's like almost like you have to find your own voice. You have to find a voice that's yours, but at the same time it's creating suspense and raising story questions and giving the reader conflicts. But
Absolutely.
it's done your way.
Yes.
That's the thing.
I've been very thrilled with the reviews that people have written where they said, I couldn't put this book down. I stayed up all night. I'm tired and it's all your fault. Or the power went out and I had to read by candlelight. And that's actually been said in some of the reviews. And that has pleased me more than anything.
Oh, yeah.
Because that says I'm telling a damn good story.
Yeah, that's what it's all about.
Yeah.
So what's your advice to young writers starting out?
I think my advice would be to be tenacious. Just don't give up. And also write the best damn book you can possibly write. Don't think it's done just because you've written the words at the end. You know, edit it, rewrite it, edit it again. Get a professional editor to take a look at it. Make it the very, very best book you can write before you start sending it out. That's a mistake I made. I started sending things out before they were ready. So that's my advice to a young writer starting out. Tenacity, the best gift a writer can have.
Well, thanks a lot, Susan Clayton-Goldner.
You're very welcome.
Appreciate your interview.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you, Jim.